What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Football Funhouse. I am Kevin Cotillo. Steve Marcus is here because he has nothing better to do, but we finally got Sal Lito back in the house. What's up, Sal?
I have better things to do, guys. Just wanted to say hi and good night. I'll talk to you soon.
You have nothing better to do. Let's
guys,
be honest.
we are under 2 weeks from Christmas. You both have young children. Tell me what it's like right now for you guys, because I don't even live with my children anymore. But they're not young. They're teenagers. So this is like, hiding the elf and all that stuff is not even exciting anymore. My daughter is hiding the elf for the dog. When I go by the house, she's moving the elf around for the dog. So tell me, what is it like in the Marcus and Cotillo homes these days?
So you mentioned the elf. I'll tell you, in the Cotillo home, where we brought out the elf. My daughter's almost 3. She'll be 3 4 days after Christmas. So she's got a birthday coming too. So there's a lot of excitement, a lot of things going on. So we brought out the elf because really she's been kind of a pain in the ass lately. And I thought that maybe we could control the attitude a little bit if we had the elf and, played that whole game where, the elf's reporting to Santa, all that stuff, right? So it worked great for like a week. And then now you tell her that Penelope's the name of our elf. You tell her that Penelope's walking and going to report to Santa, and she's just like, all right.
I've seen no repercussions of this yet.
There's no problems.
Just the name of the elf because that's important. Our elf was John Anthony. Very
two names.
Italian.
Oh, it sounds like a murderer.
Honestly. Hey, forget about that. You guys be good, or else I got to report back to Santa.
You'll be good around that block, all right?
All right. But I also used to do this when I would put a picture of Santa Claus in my phone with a fake phone number and tell my children that I could call him and or text him, and that usually that got a quick. Steve, do you do the elf on the shelf out there in California, or mention a bench? Are you Jewish, boy?
I'm not that there's anything wrong with that. But yes.
Wait, first of all, why would there be anything wrong with that? Why do you even have to use that disclaimer? Is there something
Sal, do you have a personal? It was the way that Sal asked. All right.
Also, I think it's funny that Sal, we've worked together for 3 years now on this podcast, and you don't know whether he celebrates Hanukkah or
I don't know. Marcus, could go both ways.
You sent him a Christmas present.
Marcus with a Z.
That's right.
It'd be very Jewishy. But anyway, you don't have an elf. You don't have an elf on a shelf.
Yes, we do have an elf on the shelf.
You do? Okay,
we do the whole elf on the shelf thing. Very fun around here. Tucker's finally to the age where he is looking at presents. You can tell he's thinking of ways to try and get us to let him open them before Christmas. Just one. Always just one. He just wants to open this one. And it's a constant battle with him. But then we've got the new one. She does not care at all about Christmas yet.
Yeah, she's just, I've seen her in pictures, just kind of like, she's like an egg. She's just like an egg.
Big mush ball.
Don't drop her. What is your elf's name?
Woody.
Well, that's disturbing.
I didn't pick the name, all right?
That's very awesome. That's very awesome. You guys, you got all your Christmas shopping out of the way, but, it is semifinal week in most, if not all, fantasy football leagues. And the best gift that we could get for ourselves would be to make it to the championships, which are always played Christmas weekend. So what is the likelihood that you guys will be in a championship a week from now? Wow.
Kevin's on mute.
Kevin's microphone is broken.
Oh. I see.
So I think Kevin is obviously still alive in the Falafel 16 team because he beat me.
Hello?
Yes, he's back.
Hey, we're back.
I did listen last week and hear that Kevin said you guys actually accused me of being afraid to come on the show.
Yes,
because I was playing against Kevin in the Falafel League, and what was really fun is that there was a period of time where the matchup was legitimately in doubt until Amari Cooper played.
Yeah, it was not looking good. It was not looking good at all. I was actually really nervous. You pulled the old reverse jinx quite heavily in our chats when we were discussing it. You really went heavy on the old reverse jinx. basically congratulating me for a victory before games even kicked off, and yada yada yada. It was really tight. I was legitimately concerned because I do think I have a pretty good team in that. You know, for a 16-team league, to have the stable of running backs that I do with Amari Cooper and DeAndre Hopkins, I'm pretty psyched about where I'm at. So to have lost to a team who has like 7 guys on injured reserve, I was
starting running backs that are playing in the AAF.
Right. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I was saying to Steve, obviously, it's tough in that league because there is 3 keepers, right? So you can't even make the cuts. Like you can't even work the waiver as much as you would have liked.
Yeah, and I actually was going to drop Alex Collins, but I didn't want to because I don't want anybody else to pick him up. I'm not going to keep him next year, right? Because he's not going to have a starting job, most likely anywhere, because it's just a myriad of running backs there. But I don't want to give anybody else the opportunity to pick him up for the chance that something does happen in the offseason. I knew I had no chance to win with the way that roster turned out. I literally have 5 guys who went on IR. You guys were trying to figure out who the last player was, but I had already dropped Emmanuel Sanders, and that was the last player that I had. So Emmanuel Sanders, AJ Green, Devonta Freeman, Alex Collins, and out injured currently was Melvin Gordon from that roster. So a tough year for me, but I would say, Steve, I predict that Kevin will win in a full-off league, and all 3 of us will have won the full-off championship, but only one of us will have had the joy of holding the trophy. Steve, what about yourself? Are you what's like the most important league that you're still alive in for yourself?
I've got a few of them actually.
Before he goes into important leagues where he's actually alive, let's just talk about let's get the monkey off his back here. He's avoided a relegation completely.
That's true. I'm safe.
I've never been close, so it just doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, no, I know. Well, you and I don't even think about it, but Steve there battles it with it every year. So
yeah, this is my 3rd year in a row where I've been in. I've had relegation on the mind, and I eked out the victory last week, safe from relegation, all good to go there. But yes, I'm in 4 semifinal matchups this week, and I've got a few of them that are pretty important. I got my work league, I got my home league, which is our bigger money buy-in. And then I've got my community league that I won last year, which, everyone remembers $150 of free beer goes to the winner of that league.
And Red Bull. You were hopped up on a Red Bull last year for about 2 months.
Yeah, I got a lot of Red Bull too. So, I'm in the semifinals for all of those leagues. My issue that I'm a little worried about, that I'm sure a lot of people are, is that everyone is dying. Everyone is unavailable or somewhat injured.
Tough Christmas.
And it is getting pretty ugly, especially in the running back position this week. I'm wondering what you guys are prepared to do for the semifinals and who you were going to be looking to get into your lineups.
Well, I'll tell you what happened for me. Kevin and I are both into the semifinals of the Scott Fish Bowl, so congratulations to us two for advancing further than we've ever gotten before.
Steve, how'd you do in that league?
Not good at all. We've talked about that before, but hey, let's bring it up again.
a league that I had when we did the auction for Capitalist Pigs 3, I had no idea at all that my team would be a playoff eligible. Like, I was not building a team to compete this year. I bought some decent name players that were younger, and I figured I'd save some money. I saved a lot of money after the auction, and I didn't spend any of my rookie money. And I figured, but my team has made a good run. But do you know who I was able to? Last night I put in a $10 waiver claim for Damian Williams, and I found him neatly tucked away on my roster today with Spencer Ware most likely not playing on Thursday night's game this week. So, Steve, you asked what are we planning on doing? That's a big one for people. We saw him get 2 touchdowns. He didn't get a ton of work and yardage. Ware still got the bulk of the work, but now Ware's gone. We know they've re-signed Sharkhandrick West, who's familiar with the offense, but what do you guys think? Is Damian Williams a guy that's got to be in rosters or got to be in starting lineups this week?
I don't know if he has to be. I mean, a league like that, sure, where it's thin rosters, a couple of injuries, or a couple of chances on some rookies that you might have taken in the draft in the auction. Your team might be a little thinner than most. So a guy like that might come in and help you, but I don't know that I'm putting all of my stock in him for the win. I mean, The Chargers are a good defense. I think obviously Kansas City's an offense that really hasn't been slowed down pretty much all season, but I do think that it's going to be tough for them to run the ball. I think you're going to see them throw an awful lot.
And that's how he got both of his touchdowns last week. I think he's obviously a decent fill-in for anyone who used Spencer Ware to replace Kareem Hunt. And now Spencer Ware being gone, you might not have any more options. He is going to be looking at the bulk of the work. But Kevin, I'm interested. Would you rather start him, or if Melvin Gordon doesn't go and Justin Jackson ends up stepping in because Austin Eckler has already been ruled out, are you going to go Justin Jackson, or would you go with Damian Williams if you had to pick between those two?
To me, it's a no-brainer, Justin Jackson, unless Gordon's playing, right? I mean, obviously, if Gordon plays, all that goes out the window, and it looks like he practiced today on a limited basis, so you got to keep your eye on that. But to me, Justin Jackson's by far and away better than Damian Williams, if in fact that's the scenario, because Kansas City's terrible. They can't stop anything. I think that there's a lot of people seem concerned that they're going to run the Chargers are going to have to throw the ball a lot because they'll have to play catch up. I don't know that it's necessarily going to be like that, because I think that the Chargers will get a couple of stops on Kansas City, and if they can, then they'll be able to score pretty much at will. So I think they could use Justin Jackson quite a bit in the running game. I think he's going to get a lot of carries. I think he might even be a little active in the passing game potentially, and I would pick him over Williams all day long. Sal, what about you?
Yeah, and the only place where I would have to make that decision would have been in a falloff league where I'm not in anymore. So if I was still in, and I actually have both Melvin Gordon and Justin Jackson, if I'm a Justin Jackson owner, I'm hoping that Gordon's ruled out, actually, because I don't think Gordon is going to be able to carry the load the whole night. And then you just got them splitting a baby, right? And then it's just kind of kills both guys. I'd be happier right now. It's tough to even say this because of how great Gordon has been, but I'd be happier knowing that he's not 100% if he was ruled out, and I could just go with Justin Jackson. I know he's getting all the work. I know they got the kid Newsome there who is technically listed ahead of Jackson on a depth chart, but we know by watching the games that hasn't been the case. I was actually disappointed to see the way he was used last week after the coach came out and said that Eckler is kind of run down and he's too important on special teams. And Eckler got so much of the work. Earlier, it kind of killed anybody who did start Justin Jackson. And then, unfortunately, on a special teams play, Eckler gets just blasted in the head. And now he's going to be out. So, between the two, it would be Justin Jackson for me over Damian Williams.
So you mentioned if Melvin Gordon does play, you don't think that he's going to get a lot of the workload. Does that worry you? If you have Melvin Gordon and he starts, you put him in your lineup and hope for the best?
Yeah, so I didn't say I don't think he'd get most of the workload. If he plays, I'm playing him. And I'm not playing Justin Jackson if I own him, right? It kills the Justin Jackson value to me. But I am concerned that, hey, they'll split it a little bit, and then maybe he makes a play down there by the goal line. It's going to be a bang bang play, and they don't want to put him in there and risk that. And they put a guy like Justin Jackson in on the goal line. It sucks. It's a sucky situation. And like you had said at the top of this, we're seeing it in so many places in all important playoff weeks. For instance, you guys talked about this a lot last week, and Stephen Ridley did get a touchdown, but you realize that he only played 8 snaps in that game compared to the 46 that Jalen Samuels played. It just happened to be he was hot on that drive, and they went with him, and it killed all that Jalen Samuels stock. But
irrelevant.
It's weird they used that many tight ends on the field at once.
Yeah, it's and running the tight end like that was crazy as well.
You don't see that kind of offense very often.
What do you guys think this week? Now that James Conner is sidelined to today's practice, on Wednesday's practice, for whenever you're listening to this. Again, another situation. Would you rather know that Conner's ruled out, or would you rather him? It's a guy like, if he's playing, are you playing him just like Melvin Gordon?
There's no question if Conner plays this week that I have him in. Steelers are going to do absolutely everything they can in their power to win this game. And the Patriots defense gives up a ton of yards on the ground. They just gave up, 190 yards or so to the Dolphins. I mean, on like 20 carries. They ran for almost 9 yards a carry, I think it was. So It's just they've been terrible against the run. That's the way to exploit them. So I think that and if Big Ben is actually a little banged up and struggling, and I think you're going to see them try to run the ball. So if Connor's in there, I'm putting him in my lineup for sure. If he's not in there, it's a little trickier because I do think Samuels will be the guy, but Ridley will vulture touchdowns. I think that's a real thing. I would be concerned with that going forward.
All right, an interesting pickup today. You may not find this interesting, but I am the tight end guy. Eric Swope was picked up by the
full of yourself.
No, yeah, well, I work out. I picked up on New Orleans Saints today. It probably has no relevance for this year, but Kevin, you're a Dynasty Wall Street guy, and just coming up with new leagues every single day, like Shark Tank and all this crazy stuff that you're into. What do you think Swope's value is? Would you go grab him if he was available on the waivers in a Dynasty league right now?
I think the question is what your league size is and whether or not you have room on the roster. He's definitely a good dart throw, but I'm not dropping any of my other speculation ads because he's a guy that just hasn't been able to stay healthy. We've seen that, we've heard how much talent he has. We've heard how much athleticism there is there, and that he was going to be a very good tight end, move tight end, which can catch the ball a lot, but we just haven't seen it because he hasn't been able to stay on the field. So if you're in a league where you have a 20-man roster during the season, now's not the time. Maybe when rosters first expand, if you can go grab them on that first day, that's a good day to pick them up. Or if you do have a large rostered league, sure, and you have a space, absolutely add him. But he's not a priority for me. I'll put it that way.
I saw so he was available in Picks 3 today, and Corey Coleman went on IR, so I was able to IR Coleman and add him. And that's a tight end premium league where you want to play as many tight ends as possible, and the chance that he could have a future there. Maybe Drew Brees has another year. I don't know. But
here's the other thing. How many times do we hear how good the tight end's going to be in New Orleans since, Jimmy Graham left and it just hasn't materialized, right? They just don't use the tight end that way because they haven't had one like Jimmy Graham. And maybe Swope is the guy, but I don't know that I can guarantee that because, again, we haven't seen him. So I wouldn't be rushing, but that's a perfect situation where he's a good ad, right? You have a guy who just went on IR. You have an open spot, throw him on there for sure. Those waiver wires are mostly picked over already anyway, so it's slim pickings as well. So
Slim Pickens, I like that guy.
Right. Slim Pickens.
Who doesn't like a good Slim Pickens?
All right, guys. So aside from injuries, people who have not performed up to expectations this year, but people who drafted Aaron Rodgers entirely too early this year are facing an actual dilemma in this week. Steve, how comfortable are you with Aaron Rodgers going against the Chicago Bears defense in Chicago after what we just saw them do to Jared Goff this past week?
Yeah, a little worrisome, I would say. Aaron Rodgers, it's been a while since he played Chicago. Everyone remembers that week 1 game where he led them back to that victory, and he ended up with 24.9 fantasy points. I think that the Chicago defense has gotten a lot better since then. This one is in Chicago, like you said. I would be a little worried if you were going with Aaron Rodgers. He's projected for 17.3 points. I'd probably say that's right. That's probably going to be his ceiling. I think Chicago has a chance to lock up their playoff spot if they win this game, so I think they're going to be pretty hungry for it. I don't know. I think there are other options. He hasn't been the same Aaron Rodgers where you feel like you absolutely have to get him in your lineup week after week. I think that you could do better.
3 offensive linemen out this week for the Green Bay Packers. The Bears over the last 3 weeks, the number 1 defense against running backs. Steve, if you were faced with the dilemma of starting Mitchell Trubisky or Aaron Rodgers in a semifinal this week, who are you going with? Knowing this, the Packers have allowed 3 touchdown passes in half of their games since week 8.
That's rough. That's a rough one. Why you got to do that to me, Sal?
Because that's what we do here.
I think I'd still go Aaron Rodgers there, but it's tough. It's tough. I mean, seeing what Mitchell Trubisky just did against, the Rams are a good defense, but still, I don't like it. I don't like Mitchell Trubisky enough to sit Aaron Rodgers for him.
So here you go, Steve. Here's an easier one for you. I have Scott Fishbowl, which is obviously a 2-quarterback league. I have Aaron Rodgers on my team going against the Chicago defense. I have Matthew Stafford on my team going against the Buffalo Bills, and I have Eli Manning on my team going against the Tennessee Titans.
Those are all awful.
Yeah, you got to pick 2 of them, though.
Matchup.
You got to pick 2 of them.
The first one, I got Eli and Stafford. Who was the first one?
Aaron Rodgers was the first one.
Oh,
so
well.
obviously he's in. I mean, but it's a terrible matchup. So I got to do what I got to do, right? So
yuck.
It's tough, right?
Yeah, I'd go Eli. I would go Eli and Aaron Rodgers.
I'll tell you why I'd go Eli. Michael Roberts went on the IR today, this week. So, Kevin,
now Stafford's going to start sucking.
Right.
Kevin, something that hurt me a lot in some fantasy football matchups this past week. I am heavily invested in Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson has not passed for a ton of yards this year, but he has thrown for a ton of touchdowns, and he's been consistent with the touchdowns, and it's really carried his owners. But this is the worst I feel I've seen him play probably since his rookie season, and maybe in his career. It was just a brutal game all around for both offenses on Monday night. He's playing the 49ers. They are battling, and listen, they're in a prime spot to get a wild card thing, so they need to win. So he's going to be playing all out. After seeing that performance, are you comfortable playing Russell Wilson in the semifinals this week?
That's really tough. Oh, man. I mean,
that's not tough. You'd start him over any of those quarterbacks you mentioned easily.
Oh, yeah, I'd take him against any of mine for sure.
Oh, I have him going into Fishbowl this week for me. That's
yeah,
good.
I think he'll be fine. I mean, look, Russell Wilson's the type of guy, especially this time of year, that I think you have to get in your lineup. This particular week, tough matchup against the Minnesota Vikings. I know he's been struggled a little bit, but usually we see in December and in late December in particular, he really starts to turn it around. He's definitely the type of guy that has won championships for fantasy players in the past because he's been so good in late December. So if you can struggle to get to this point with him as your quarterback and when he's had lower production, it usually pays off. I think he's in my lineup for sure.
All right, here's a guy a few weeks ago. So in Cousin Donald's league.
Hey, Cousin Donald. We haven't talked about that league in a while. Are you
I got eliminated this week because of how bad Russell Wilson played. Okay. I lost by 3 points. So basically, at the end of the first half, if Russell Wilson just falls one more foot forward into the end zone and scores a touchdown, I'm in. Or maybe if one play later, he doesn't just throw the ball to the defense for an interception, maybe I'm in. But I'm out. So that is one of the places where Russell Wilson hurt me. But a guy who I had to go away from a few weeks ago was David Johnson. I went to Aaron Jones, so it wasn't like I was, completely falling off, but I had to make that decision because I actually traded for David Johnson after week 2, and I traded Ezekiel Elliott for him. So you could imagine what a bad move that was for me. He's banged up. He is expected to play. Steve, can you trust David Johnson? He is playing the very lowly Atlanta Falcons defense, but Chase Edmonds has been getting a lot of work. Do you feel like in the Cardinals' minds, they're looking towards next year, and when it banged up, are you comfortable semifinal sitting a guy you most likely took as a top 5 draft pick?
Yeah, you definitely can't keep where you drafted him in your mind heading into this week. You have to look at your bench and the team that you've created since then. So if you have better options, obviously get him in there. But David Johnson, the problem with him is that he's injured, banged up, like you said, heading into this game. It is such a good matchup. We've talked about all season long how awful Atlanta is against the run, how many receptions they give up to running backs, and David Johnson is a running back that is very good at receiving the football. So I think that if he were 100% healthy, you'd obviously roll him out there, knowing that he's banged up, knowing that Arizona is so bad and they're out of it. It will be interesting to see what ends up happening. And like you said, Chase Edmonds took a touchdown from him last week. I would be a little worried about David Johnson, to be honest. I don't know how much they need to run him out there, and I think they might actually really start giving Edmonds more of a look. So he's projected for 14.8. I think he's going to need to get into the end zone to get that. And I would be a little worried.
Quick opinion from both of you guys. David Johnson, an Arizona Cardinal next season?
Yes.
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
I don't see why they would get rid of him when they're trying. I mean, what would be the point, right? How is that going to help them?
I'm not really sure. Kevin, what's the question? You're not going to berate me.
I mean, maybe you could give me some kind of information there. Nothing.
Sal, why are you asking the question? Tell Kevin
because
why you want
David Johnson is an expensive running back, and they seem to like this kid Chase Edmonds. They're going with a youth movement. Larry Fitzgerald will most likely move on. They have Kirk. They have Chad Williams. They're going in that direction.
Do you know how much dead money they'd have on the cap if they cut him?
You know, I'm not asking if this we could trade in the NFL. There's trading.
Oh, you want to trade? You want to talk trades?
Yeah, I don't want to talk to them now. I just asked you if it was going to be the next year or not.
Would you like to know how much dead money they'd have on the cap if they traded him?
Kevin, there's ways to work things out.
I'm just saying, he's not a player.
Hey, New York Jets, here's David Johnson. Send us back $5 million.
I don't think you can do that in the NFL, but sure.
You shut your mouth. This is New York. We go under the table all the
time. I'm sure you do go under the table all the time. So, listen, he's he'll be a 27-year-old running back that is a terrific offensive weapon for a young quarterback and an offense that'll have a new coordinator. I think he's going to be on the team.
How dare you say that about that young man coaching that offense out there?
Can I ask another running back question?
No.
May I interject?
Sure. I had another question in this game, but Steve, go ahead.
It's all you, you talked about him a little bit earlier. Aaron Jones, like you mentioned, Green Bay going up against the Chicago defense. What do you do with a guy like Aaron Jones? You said they've got 3 starters of their offensive line. Do you still roll Aaron Jones out there? No problem. How do you sit him when he's been on the role that he's been on?
I don't know that it's no problem. It's definitely a concern. It's you got to look at the roster. He's going to be in for me in both Pigs 3, where I'm playing in the semifinal, and in Fishbowl because of the way that those rosters, starting lineups are designed. I have to have him in both of those. If I was still in the semifinals in Dumb Cousin Donald's league, where I do have him, my choices would have been Nick Chubb or David Johnson over him, and I would probably lean Nick Chubb out of those 3 in this situation, playing Denver, your Denver Broncos, because my other guy was Kamara. You believe I'm not in the semifinals with those 4 running backs, but yeah, it's tough because he's going to get work, and with the new coaching staff this week, he's severely outsnapped Jamal Williams. He's back to that amount of touches, but it's a tough matchup. Chicago pretty good.
Kevin, did you start Aaron Jones or Sony Michel?
That's two words. James Devlin. Son of a.
I hate that bastard so much. He's finding. Did you see that he's finding more and more ways to screw over Sony Michel? Sony Michel gets a good long run in this past weekend's game. I think it was like a 20-yard carry, and Devlin gets called for a holding. So not only is he vulturing touchdowns, he's taking back his big runs. Yeah. Unbelievable.
I had him in an important place, and it was...
Anyway, that's a tough call. Chicago's so good defensively, and like we've talked about with the offensive line being shambles, I think it's a tough call. I'd probably lean Sony Michel because I think he is still going to get the volume. I think that you're more likely. I mean, he got 20 carries last week. I know he didn't do a lot with them, and he wasn't great, but he did get 20 carries. Pittsburgh gives up the 10th most points to opposing running backs over the last 5 weeks, so they can be run on. And there's a good chance that the Patriots will want to slow this game down a little bit and make sure that they can keep the ball on the ground, given that Connor could be out. So,
would you start Sony Michel over Melvin Gordon were he to be active tomorrow?
No. Like I said, if Gordon's in, he's in my lineup. No question about it.
Agree. All right. Sorry to interject, Sal.
No problem. You're a valuable part of the show, and we like you.
That's the first time Sal's ever said that.
Yeah, it's the holidays, man.
No worries. It's worrying me a little bit.
Merry Christmas, Steve. That was your gift.
Ho, ho, ho. Back to the Atlanta-Arizona game. Kevin, you and I made a trade in the Falafel Dynasty League, and
Yes, we did.
so we have this ability to continue to trade even after the playoffs go on, and I advanced due to the wonders of Derrick Henry, a guy who I was heavily invested in Dynasty, and actually put me in to the semifinals.
Of our good friend Brandon, who has not stopped whining about it since.
He's in a bell tower as we speak.
2 years later, that investment paid off.
Yeah, man. It's if you ever listen to Dynasty Wall Street, you understand it. It's an investment. It's an investment. You have to put in the time.
That's a good show. You should check that out.
Yeah, two out of three hosts are good.
That's right.
Never heard of it.
Now you know how I feel about Kevin. You know how I feel about John Bosch. So
that's right. I assume that meant me.
You gotta wonder which one I'm talking about, because we all know Riley's the guy.
Riley's the man.
So Tevin Coleman was who I traded. I got back from you. And Tevin Coleman has not been spectacular lately. Arizona's offense on a whole is not what it was at the beginning of the season. But they are going against that Arizona defense, which has been consistently bad against running backs all season. How do you feel about Tevin Coleman in this matchup? Ito Smith has a little bit of a neck issue. He got in a limited practice today. But Tevin Coleman, is that a guy that if you had to play him as your RB2 this week, that you'd be comfortable he could give you a solid double-digit performance?
Oh, solid double-digit. I don't think you can guarantee a double-digit performance out of Tevin Coleman. I mean, he's getting a lot of work, but we did see, Ito Smith create a lot last week, even though like you said, he did have an injury. So I don't know that I'm guaranteeing double digits out of him, though, right? I mean, he's been very up and down, hasn't had a double-digit performance in the last 2 weeks. Granted, that's going against Baltimore, who's a much better defense, and then Green Bay. No, I don't think I don't think – look, I traded him. So, I mean, I don't need him. I'm not competing for the season. I'm not still in the playoffs. But I traded him because I haven't liked what he's shown since he's been the lead carrier in that offense. And I don't know if that's an offensive thing where they're struggling as a whole, or if it's him as not being a very good runner when he's got a primary role, but he just hasn't done it consistently. And, you go back to week 9 where he scored over 32 points. And outside of that, he has two double-digit performances since then. So
my choice was going to be to put Adrian Peterson in this week, which is why I made the trade to you. Peterson going against the Jacksonville defense, which has been really solid against the run this year. And I have an opportunity to possibly hold on and win that league. So I'm going to put him in. But what would your choice be there this week, him or Adrian Peterson?
That's really –
I don't like that hesitation.
Yeah, that's really tough.
Is it? It is for
definitely?
me. It is for me. Yeah, I think so. I don't know if you saw the way that Washington's offense ran after Josh Jackson came in, but they're totally different offense now. And Josh
Jackson's the man, no question about it.
He's the only one that runs the ball, and he's going to tear Jacksonville's defense apart.
I was joking earlier, but wasn't he actually drafted in an AAF draft?
He was actually. Yes, he was drafted to a team. They signed him off the team. So, look, man, I that's tough for me. I'd probably lean Coleman, I guess, only because the matchup's a little better. But you're going to struggle either way there, buddy.
You shut your face. All right, guys, over in Philadelphia, they're taking on the Rams. This is going to be the Sunday nighter. And it looked like when Golden Tate came over that Alshon Jeffrey would fall into the secondary role on that team. And then I think people got all excited with Tate's performance 2 weeks ago. And then this week it was mostly Alshon Jeffrey, 6 for 50 and a touchdown. And then Golden Tate was not quite as good. So, Kevin, what are you comfortable with either? And you guys could both answer this, Steve, because I know I went to Kevin last time. But are you comfortable with either one of these guys in a semifinal matchup this week, either Alshon or Golden Tate? In fact, both of you tell me which guy you would choose out of those two.
Steve?
If I was forced to choose one of them, I would probably go with Alshon Jeffrey, but and I would do everything I could. I'd probably feel more comfortable with Deshaun Hamilton over either one of them.
Wow, Deshaun Hamilton over either one of them. It's just a sad, sad state of affairs, isn't it?
Is it wrong though?
No, it's not wrong. It's just, it's just sad. There's no other word for that. I actually do think Deshaun Hamilton's a good play this week. I think he clearly Keenum likes that role. He's playing the Emmanuel Sanders type role, and he's getting peppered with targets, so he's not a bad play. When it comes to Alshon and Golden Tate, the Rams have been not great, but not bad over the last 5 weeks. I think they're 14th most fantasy points, so right in the middle of the pack there. And oh man, I guess I'd lean Alshon, but
no Carson Wentz.
Neither of them, yeah. But that that doesn't. We've seen it before. I mean, Foles didn't look good in the beginning of this season, but look what he did at the end of last season. So he can come in and flash, right? There is the chance that happens. And it's going to be, I think that the Rams are going to be able to put up a lot of points on Philly, so they're going to be throwing a lot to keep up. So I would go Alshon of the two, and I might even pick Alshon over Deshaun Hamilton, even though Alshon's been just very, very difficult to watch a lot of the season.
Steve, I forgot that Wentz was ruled out, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So,
what I saw? Maybe it's different now, but earlier today I did see conflicting reports where the coaches hadn't ruled him out, but it sounded like he wasn't going to play.
Well, I'll tell you this: if he doesn't play, then that Tevin Coleman deal won't matter because he's one of my two starting quarterbacks in the Falafel Dynasty League. It's a 2 QB, and the other guy's Derek Carr. So
can always make another deal there. So
I'm gonna have to just start giving up picks. Interestingly enough.
You like Matthew Stafford? Huh?
No, you don't want that guy.
You brought up Deshaun Hamilton. And interestingly enough, I listened to the podcast last week that I wasn't on, and you could not come up with Tim Patrick's name, Steve. As a Denver Bronco owner, you came up with Tim White, Tim White was a wide receiver in the NFL for the Atlanta Falcons when you were probably in elementary school.
All right.
And he was a kick returner and he was a little scrappy wide receiver. But Tim Patrick actually saw more targets, had more receptions and more yardage than Deshaun Hamilton, but he didn't get the touchdown. So I know that he is playing, that Deshaun's playing the slot role, which was the Sanders role, as Kevin pointed out. So if you had a choice between those two guys this week, you would go with Deshaun Hamilton over Tim Patrick? That's for you, Bronco fan.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was an open question. I was waiting for Kevin to answer that. Yeah, I probably still would go with Deshaun Hamilton just because I just feel a little more comfortable with him. We know a little bit more about him as he was coming out. I would like to see it, a little more consistency from Tim Patrick or Keenum throwing to Tim Patrick before going in on him. Although, taking a chance on Deshaun Hamilton semifinal weekend,
we finally asked Steve to do something, and his damn equipment.
Yeah, now he can't. Now he can't hear him. So
he went blank, ladies and gentlemen. He went blank. Steve, say something.
Hello.
Blink if you're alive.
Oh my God, he's dead.
Well, that's it. We knew it. We knew it was bound to happen.
Hey, Steve, did you listen to the show 2 weeks ago when Kevin announced that you were dead?
I did.
I thought it was good.
I had to bring
other people didn't seem as thrilled.
I had to resuscitate you.
That's awkward. He's going under the table. He's giving mouth to mouth. I don't know what happened here. We should probably continue on with the football talk.
Oh, there was football talk? All right, guys. Here's a good question. That Gronkowski, is he back?
Oh, man. That question sucks.
Are you comfortable putting Rob Gronkowski in your lineup this week? He had a good week last week.
You heard me say it if you did listen to the podcast, which I believe you did when you were out, Sal. You must have heard me say to Steve that he was going to screw a lot of people this weekend because they were going to take him out of the lineup and he was going to have a good week. And sure enough, 100 yards and a touchdown, which I'm sure he was on people's bench.
I did hear that because I heard Steve say that he would not be sitting him because I knew that it meant Steve's life and death in the Falafel 16-teamer. So Steve has gone on about how he was Steve's wide receiver 1 this year, even though he's a tight end in the Falafel league.
Yeah. So look, he does not look great. He looked a lot better this past weekend, but he's still laboring a little bit with he got more separation in this one. He's still being tackled quicker than I think most of the time he did. He's not breaking tackles anymore. When he's on the line blocking, he doesn't look like he has the same kind of explosion. So there's definitely something going on with him, whether it was just an injury and he's getting healthier or, he's actually, falling off some kind of cliff. But you're going to roll him out because you have to. Right? I mean, I think because he can very easily put up 100 and a touchdown every game. That's always an option. And I think when you're talking about the tight end position, unless your other options are Kelsey, Ertz.
If you have one of those guys and Gronk on your roster, that 2-team league is not working out.
That's what I mean. So Kelsey, Ertz, Kittle, maybe Evan Ingram if you want to throw him in the mix if he's going to play, and him. I mean, but unless you have those guys, Gronk's in your lineup. So, or Ebron, obviously.
Ebron.
By the way, Steve, did you have Ebron in Scott Fishbowl?
I did not,
and yet you're eliminated.
I did not. I did not have him. Yes, and I'm eliminated. That's it. That's the reason.
I'm just pointing out coincidences.
No, I'm going to blame it on the players that I did draft and that sucked, like Tom Brady. All right? I'm blaming Tom.
Whoa.
I'm blaming Tom
Brady.
Interesting.
I could, the past 2 years I've done a Festivus rant, which, by the way, we have to remind everybody that we will be doing our Festivus show coming up, and we are still accepting entries. So please get your Festivus airing of grievances rants into us at the Fantasy Football Funhouse at gmail.com. There have been some great ones coming in. Kevin has finished the lyrics for his. Kevin's going to bless us with a vocal rendition this year. He's got a lot to live up to because Steve has knocked it out of the park.
Is Steve being musical this year? Steve, are you going musical?
I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know.
Are you?
I don't know.
Are you being coy, or have you really not put any time into this yet?
No, I really don't know yet. I feel like I need to wait for this weekend to play out before I can potentially get the real depth of what I might want to say. Although I've heard that your a cappella rendition of The Little Drummer Boy is going to be amazing, Kevin.
It is not The Little Drummer Boy.
If you need anybody to bum for you, I'm here.
Again, just being the weird. Just why the weird?
That's what I do.
So everybody get your submissions in Fantasy Football Funhouse at gmail.com. We got a little harassment for the length of the email address, so maybe we should look into changing that for next year.
Three F's in an unhouse, Kevin.
3 F's in an unhouse.
So I typically rant about my Scott Fishbowl team the last 2 years because it's been so bad, and I have made it, like we said earlier, to the semifinals, but I lost 11 players in that league again this year, believe it or not. If you count Le'Veon Bell, I lost O.J. Howard, I lost Marvin Jones, I lost Andy Dalton, I lost Jake Butt, then I picked up Heuerman, and I lost him as well. It's just been so bad. Connor, who I had to back up Bell, I was able to get Samuel. But it's just the fact I've survived this long has been amazing. So I don't think that'll be part of my rant this year. But you guys have left a lot for me to live up to with the great stuff you have done in the past.
Thanks for that. Should we end on that note? I mean, I know it's a little early. I know we didn't get to too much, but should we? You got more to talk about, it feels like that's a good ending note, no?
Yeah, anytime I compliment you two guys, you should probably take it and get the hell out of here.
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, this never happens, so I feel like we should wrap it up.
If you guys don't have any important matchups that you feel we need to discuss for the all-important semifinal week, then I see no reason why we cannot get out of here so Kevin can go to his other shows.
We'll be recording Dynasty Wall Street tonight. Should be available this weekend.
You son of a bitch. Actually, totally legal. Thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Fantasy Football Funhouse. You can check us out on Twitter at FF Funhouse. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. And, of course, you can go to fantasyfootballfunhouse.com if you miss any of these episodes. And, of course, remember to tune in and get your Festivus submissions in.
And not just if you missed them, like, you didn't catch them when they first aired. If you just missed them. Like, sometimes Sal goes back and reminisces by listening to old episodes.
That's right.
Yeah, I like to listen to things when I had even slightly more hair than I had right now, because every day a little more goes. Reminded you guys, check me out over on fanball.com. A little difficult to
can't believe we dropped the ball on that.
A little difficult to find a quarterback sleeper in a week 15. But what I wrote up there this week was, if you have a legitimately good starter, play them. But I did put Jeff Driscoll up there because he's facing the Raiders, and he's a similar skill set to Lamar Jackson. Now, am I saying he's Lamar Jackson? No, but his style of play is the same. And Lamar Jackson ran for 70-plus yards on a touchdown against the Raiders 2 weeks ago and threw for 178 and one more. So if you're desperate and you've gotten injuries and you had Andy Dalton, or you want to sit Aaron Rodgers, who, by the way, is my landmine quarterback of the week over there. The only other thing I'd like to point out, guys, is congratulations to Scott Fish for being named a Person of the Year by The Athletic. It's amazing the recognition that he got. And if he posted the picture of all the people that they recognized this year, and he is like a little sore thumb in the corner of that picture. But the guy's amazing, and the things he's done are amazing. And it made me think about getting ready to start doing preparations for this year's Podathon. If you listen to our show and you know that we did the Podathon, we're going to start getting ready in February to bring that bigger and better this year. So if you are a podcast host or a writer or something, and you work for a company, or you know a company that can recommend sponsors, whatever, keep that in mind. Get in touch with us, and we'd like to make it. We raised nearly $5,000 last year. We'd like to make that close to 10 this year. So big shout out to Scott and everything he does, and everybody in the fantasy industry who helped get him to where he is. He's a great guy, and he's been great to us three. I would say one of the most important people to our success outside of our own work that we've done, I would have to say. So shout out to you, Scott.
Yeah, definitely. Scott has been very helpful and, encouraging and just supportive of both Sal and I, and he tolerates Steve pretty well as well. He does a good job of tolerating Steve. So I just want to remind everyone in this holiday season to make sure you be like Scott Fish and do some good work with fantasy. You can use fantasy to do something charitable for someone else, and it definitely makes the experience that much better. So do that during this holiday season or next year when he reopens all the Fantasy Cares stuff on fantasycares.net. Check that out. Get into some of those games. That's it for us. We'll be back sometime next week. And it might be the Festivus episode. I don't know. We'll see.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
Festivus episode will be airing on Festivus, which will be December 23rd. I will be at a Patriots game. There's rumors that Sal might be coming to Foxborough to come with me, but we haven't confirmed that, so we'll see.
What a teaser.
A bloody teaser.
So we'll be back. Until then, we'll talk to you later.